Sasha Banks and Naomi walk out on Monday Night Raw's main event last night. Um, wow. I was absolutely shocked, but at the same time, I was not shocked. Uh, After walking into John Laurinaitis' office, they placed their tag team championship belts on his desk, and they walked out. Um, they walked out of the building, claiming they were not respected enough as the tag team champions. And listen to this shit. So essentially, people are saying that they were going to have Naomi pin Sasha. Now, I know after the fact, now today, tonight, we've heard that, oh, they weren't going to interact. But if we find out that that was the actual plan, where they were going to have Naomi pin Sasha to go on and face Bianca Belair, that may be one of the worst booking things I have ever heard. But even the decision that they claim now, where they weren't going to interact at all, they were both going to go face, their respective champions of Bianca Belair and Ronda Rousey. That's terrible as well. Who does that help? Why on earth would you take your tag team champions, your women's tag team champions, and basically job them out to the two women's champions? It makes absolutely no sense, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting stories going around. I mean, I do have a few notes that, to kind of go through. We have WWE's side of the story. They released a statement. We have, if it's to be believed, someone close to Sasha and Naomi gave their side of the story, which I also have that for us to go over. I mean, yeah, you did a pretty great job kind of covering the beginning of this. I mean, obviously, we know that there was supposed to be a 6-pack challenge,
Mm-hmm.
which included, Naomi, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Asuka, Nikki Ash, and Doudrop. Um, Around the start of the show, like you said, the Sasha and Naomi went into Johnny Ace's office and laid their tag belts down on the table and said they weren't respected and they were out. Um, did you hear that Vince found out while he was in Gorilla?
Yes, I did. So apparently he found out like as the show was starting, sitting, in Gorilla where he always sits. So yeah, that was a shocker to me.
Yeah, well, that was the thing because I had saw on Twitter that they had announced that match as the show started,
Yeah.
um, and they quickly had to change course, and they shot an angle with Becky and Adam Pearce or whatever, and set up for the new main event. So
And Becky pitched that, by the way.
yeah, I had heard that. I
Pitch
mean,
pitching
it was kind of on the
herself
fly.
pitching herself
Yeah.
losing to Asuka, that's not terrible, so I commend her for that a little bit.
Yeah, but there's some other stuff coming out that it could be something that Becky said. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. Again, there's a lot to unpack, and I definitely want to try to stay on task with it.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. So where are we at with this? So
Well, here,
basically, we have the story
let
pretty
me hit you
covered.
with this one here. So
Yeah,
a
go
lot of
for it.
people are calling this move by Bianca and Naomi unprofessional. I completely disagree, knowing the track record that the E has with what they've done with people in the past. So, what's your take on that? Do you think this was unprofessional of them?
No, I don't. I think kind of like what you're saying. The track record here is just it's just unacceptable. Like these guys, or I'm sorry, these girls, whatever. They're two of the most talented women on that roster. I mean, Sasha Banks is, in my opinion, always been one of their best wrestlers, in the women's division. And they've done they I don't know why they have a women's tag team championship if it means nothing.
Yep.
And it's never meant anything. And they keep, you know, trying to make it mean something by doing nothing with it. And I can understand Sasha's, point of view of being fed up with it, pun not intended, where it's just it's like I get it. She's contracted by the WWE to do what they want from her. And I understand that side of the argument. But they're there needs to be a balance there. There needs to be some sort of, middle ground where, yes, at the end of the day, I don't think that Sasha's problem is doing the job for Ronda, and and I don't think Naomi has a problem with doing the job for Bianca Belair. I don't think that that was necessarily the issue. I think the issue was more so that you give these women these championships with the sole purpose of just feeding them to other wrestlers
Yeah.
or other champions, and I just don't see the point of that. I don't see why you would do that. And I know why. The problem is because they've failed to create new stars and they have no credible people, so they need to keep going back to the well. But the problem is that that's not a fair thing to expect of Sasha and Naomi, because then Sasha and Naomi end up not doing anything for their whole careers except for being fodder, because Sasha's already been beaten by Ronda in a big match. Like, we don't need to see that again.
Yep.
But they were gonna put it out there.
Exactly.
So, like, no, I don't think necessarily, like, I think at the end of the day, if you're not being treated well by your employer, and this isn't just a wrestling thing,
Yeah.
this is a life thing. If you're not being treated well, like, you are not, you don't owe anything to those places. You know what I
No.
mean? Like nobody owes anything to the WWE. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
understand, like, yes, they pay your bills, and yes, they give you the opportunity and stuff like that, but the shit that they pull, the shit that they do, it's not it's just not fair game, in my opinion. I just don't see it that way.
no. And remember, the WWE does their contracts in those weird ways where you're basically like subcontracted to them, but it's an exclusive, contract. And if they essentially book you to destroy, your, I don't want to say like reputation or what, but they basically destroy everything that you've built over the past few years by making you basically a jobber. You got to kind of got to look out for yourself on that one and say, hey, you know what? No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
And there's a
definitely. I definitely agree with that. I think it's just a lot of ridiculousness. I just
yeah.
It's frustrating.
I
So,
mean, couldn't we say Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan both did the same thing back in the day?
yeah, exactly. They absolutely did. And as we've seen in the past, Vince can be extremely petty when this type of thing happens.
Yeah.
Um, Throughout the show, and I don't hold this against Corey Graves, because I that's just Graves doing his job.
No, yeah,
But when
absolutely.
you're spoon feeding Graves these lines of, like, they're being unprofessional, they're being hold on, what was there was a quote to it. Hold on, I actually have it in my notes. Just let me see real quick.
I agree with
Uh,
you. Corey Graves was just being fed into his ear. He was just repeating the teleprompter.
yeah, Sasha Banks and Naomi summarily and unprofessionally walked out. That was what Vince McMahon had Corey Graves tell the crowd, or tell the viewers at home, on their show. Um, so they also put out a statement, which I'd like to read for you, because, again, we're going to look at both sides, and we're going to talk about both sides of the story. So the following is the official statement released by World Wrestling Entertainment
Oh, all right.
in regards to this situation. When Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Monday Night Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand, placed their tag team championship belts on the desk, and walked out. They claimed they weren't respected enough as tag team champions, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with the two of their opponents, even though they'd had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequences. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contracts. We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event. Um, so let's kind of break this down and kind of go through it. So a
They've
lot a lot
never
of this
done
is
that
kind of,
before. Sorry.
what, release a statement like this?
Yeah, there's been fights in the ring with Charlotte and Nia Jax, no statement like
Yep.
this. I've never seen anything like this from them.
I think that this is them more so trying to get in front of a problem
Yeah.
because they know it's a problem. Um, so again, let's break this down. So they kind of open up talking about, that Sasha and Naomi were told well in advance of their participation in the six pack challenge.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that during the broadcast, as we know, they walked John Laurinaitis' office, John Laurinaitis, with their
People
success
power.
suitcases in hand, placed their tag team championship belts on the desk, and walked out. Now, this stuff, I believe, legitimately happened. I do think that WWE's part of the story up to this point checks out. I do believe all of this because other reports are saying the same thing. Continuing on, they claimed they weren't respected enough as tag team champions. Even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents. So this is where it kind of gets, where the first bit of bullshit kind of comes
Yeah,
in for me. So
that
they've
part's
worked with
horseshit.
literally everyone that's in this match in the six pack. They had a match from my research. Again, I don't watch the product, and this is we'll get into that. I did research. They wrestled Doudrop and Nikki Ash last week, I believe, if I'm
Yes,
correct.
yes, they did.
Okay, they've clearly worked. Clearly, Sasha Banks has worked with Becky Lynch, and clearly Sasha Banks has worked with Asuka, and Naomi has done the same. It over the last few years there's like 5 or 6 female wrestlers who are kind of that core, and they've all worked each other a million times, and all 4 of those women are part of that group. So that, like, I don't understand where this part's coming from, and I think this is Vince being petty.
Yep.
I think this is Vince trying to put the blame a little bit more on them, saying like they're not comfortable working in those conditions. I don't know who we're talking about here. Fightful had reported that there was no set producer for the match at the time of the, like, when they walked out, which is a problem in and of itself. But
Yeah.
there's nobody attached to this match that these women haven't worked with. So I don't understand where this is coming from, where all of a sudden they don't feel safe working with any of them. I don't
No,
I don't buy this for 1 second.
me
Like,
neither.
this is just reeks of bullshit.
Yeah, that part right there was absolute horseshit. No way.
Completely. And then we get on to the next bit where Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. So for me, this is the section that cements that this is definitely not a work. Um,
Yep.
Monday Night Raw, or the Fed referring to themselves as scripted.
Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
wild.
yeah, to me, this is kind of, again, like you said, it's not something that happens very often. I mean, like, the moments that make me think of this, like, it's the Brett screwed Brett promo, and then Austin taking his ball and going home, and then this. Like, it's not something that happens very often. It's a
Yeah.
very rare thing. Um, and then they have to pepper it on with that last bit that just makes me laugh, because it says, "We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event," as in to put the blame and the disappointment of the fans
Uh,
on Sasha and Naomi. Which
Like,
what? So what about all the other times that WWE
I
fails
was
to
just gonna
deliver?
say, like, they don't do that all the time.
They do it every single week where they don't deliver on these advertised matches. They were supposed to do Cody versus Theory last week, and they didn't do it. Like,
Dude,
I don't know, man. I can't stand it. Like, I really hate them.
they
I
had Theory
really.
versus Mustafa Ali, and then all of a sudden he's like, "No, guest referee. Oh wait, no, you're facing Veer Mahan," and it's like, what? Like, come on.
Well, that was the funny thing leading into last night's Raw. There was only one match advertised, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, like. The
So
Observer was, even Brian Alvarez was talking about. The Observer was like, "Oh, they have one match," and it was like
yeah.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So that's the perfect segue you give me there for leading into a point I wanted to make along with this Sasha and Naomi is Mustafa Ali. They don't, how you just said, they don't bring through their matches that they advertise. We were supposed to have Mustafa Ali versus Austin Theory for the U.S. title, right? So Mustafa Ali comes out, and Austin Theory informs him, "Nah, I don't feel comfortable with this new referee. I want The Miz as our special guest referee." Then he says, "Wait a minute, I don't even feel like wrestling in this match. You're going to face Veer Mahan." And then they proceed to absolutely squash him. Now, this may have been a 4-minute match, but if you saw the end of this match, they squashed the shit out of him. It was absolute trash using the cervical clutch, which is the worst name for a move I've ever heard, by the way. I said it to my wife last night, and she looked at me like I was insane. And I was like, yeah, that's a real name of his move. Um, so the reason I'm bringing this up is I think Mustafa Ali should have walked out with them when he found out what was happening here tonight. I feel like that was just as bad as what was Sasha and Naomi are going through. I think he should have walked out with them.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that, and I think that there's definitely cause for it. Um, Unfortunately, walking out on even though they're not employees, they're independent contractors.
Yeah.
Walking out does not equal quitting for the WWE.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
There were reports coming out today that WWE doesn't want to even suspend Sasha and Naomi, which I don't blame them. If I were Vince, I would be doing everything in my power to get them to come back. I
Yeah.
mean that it, it's a shit show. It's absolutely ridiculous, and
Yeah. We know how petty
you
he
know it,
is, though. It's going to be interesting.
well, so the thing is that you got to keep in mind is that Vince is not running a private company, and he's not the head of a private company. You know, he's gonna get calls from Fox and from USA saying what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like this, like in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if those calls had already happened.
Oh,
Um,
guaranteed.
and that's the other thing. Like, I don't even know because we're still really early into this all happening. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of misinformation going around, a lot of stuff that's really kind of hard what to believe and what not to believe. I saw things last night going around like some people were saying that it's a contract dispute, that this has all started with contract issues. Some people, I think WrestleVotes, had noted that this was not a fresh issue, that it was ongoing, and that today was kind of like a boiling over point for the two, that
Yeah.
it wasn't just today that led to this happening, it was leading up to it. I honestly, dude, I read shit last night that's saying Bruce Pritchard made some racist remarks against the two of them, and that's what set them over. Like, there's a lot
Fucking
of
hate
stuff
that
going
guy.
around it, and I don't. Yeah, I fucking hate him too. Um, but like, there's a lot of stuff going around, and it's kind of hard to differentiate and separate what's real and what's not at the moment. It's I feel like we're sitting here maybe like a week or two from now with a lot more correct information, but
Yeah.
it was a conversation that needed to be had. So I'm gonna get into the reverse statement, which was a statement made via Twitter to someone who is believed to be uh, a reputable source close to Naomi.
Okay. So I don't
Um,
have this one, so I
Naomi,
won't be able to put it up on screen, but go ahead.
I gotcha. So I'm gonna read it for you. It's a good amount of reading. I saw the tweets last night, um, and Naomi does follow this person, so
Oh.
yeah. So that it does lead some credibility that like it's not like this person is just some random dude who they don't even follow. Like, Naomi does follow him. Sasha Banks, oh, by the way, also unfollowed I think every single WWE account last night. If you go
Yeah,
to
I
her
did have
Twitter,
that in my notes here.
she's only following like 6 people at this point, and none of
She
them are WWE
she
accounts.
unfollowed
I
Roman
think
Reigns, like Vince, everybody.
yeah, I think right now she's following Naomi, Snoop Dogg, John Cena, and then like two other people that I don't
Wow.
know who they are. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, um, so this source is on Twitter, and it's at Adidas_head88. Like I said, he is followed by Naomi and was apparently given permission to share their side of the story. And this is some direct quotes coming at you. All right. You are approached in February as being put in a tag team after both being promised big feuds at WrestleMania. You bite the bullet and put everything you got into being a tag team. It works. You get over, win the titles at WrestleMania, and become merch pushers. 5 weeks into your reign, you show up to live TV ready to work. You are told you will be in the main event and you are happy. You are both then told that one of you will be going over from pinning the other. You have questions why that decision was made and how it helps y'all. You request a meeting with your boss to discuss it. Your boss takes the meeting and everything is actually going well. He understands your concerns, the meeting ends well, and the match is told to be reconstructed. For some reason, producers get mad about it. You then ask, with one of your members going over, what happens to your titles? You are told basically that you will just be carrying the belts. They want you to use both to help both women's champions get more over. Bianca versus Naomi, Sasha versus Ronda. Neither of you, neither one of you will win the solo titles, and you won't defend your tag titles until Money in the Bank, which I believe is in July. Um, you you ask for another meeting with your boss, but this time you are being called spoiled. A producer walks away screaming. He comes back and tells both of you to fix your attitudes. You all have a brief meeting amongst yourselves and decide to stand up for yourselves. You go to another boss and make it clear you just have concerns. You ask why are we even in the match and why aren't other women in it? You ask why your titles have no stories for 2 months. Again, you are met with fix your attitudes. So after one final meeting with yourselves and asking others, you make the ultimate decision as a team. It's sad how one side is trying to create a fucked up narrative. Also, it was asked why were Nikki Ash and Doudrop in the match instead of starting their program tonight. Naomi nor Sasha talked down about being in the ring with either one. I don't know how that got flipped.
Dude,
That,
where do we even
that is,
start with that?
I mean, yeah, we let's run through it, dude. I mean, that's why we're here. So, getting back to the top. So they were approached in February about being put in a tag team, and they were
Yep.
both promised big feuds at WrestleMania. You watch a little bit better than me. I do not believe that they had big feuds at WrestleMania, though.
No.
Didn't they? They won the titles though at
They won the
WrestleMania.
titles there, so I guess you could call that a big feud at WrestleMania. But if they were promised like singles feuds, that's different. But no, that's where they won their titles, so that's cool. Um, they did get their WrestleMania moment. They got to hold the titles up. Sasha was crying, so yeah.
Okay, so carrying on, it seems like they say they bit the bullet and they put everything they got into making the tag team work, and it worked, and they got
Mm-hmm.
over. It says that they won the titles at WrestleMania, and they claim that they became merch pushers, which they would know because that type of number is shared with them, so they
Yeah,
know the numbers that they're doing.
and
Um,
they wanted to bring prestige back to the championships as well, which is another important thing to remember with all this.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Sasha, even back in the first time, because this is not the first time she's been upset with her direction. She was upset back in I believe it was 2019 or
Yeah,
2018, and she took 6 months off
he left for six
because she
months.
was frustrated. Yeah, so this is not something new. Um, so let's see here. 5 weeks into your reign, you show up to live TV ready to work. So obviously, this is tonight. We're about 5 weeks removed from WrestleMania. They're happy that they're going to be in the main event, and then they're told the plans, and it just sounds like, I mean, number one, they don't seem like they believe that the direction of this makes any sense, and honestly, I mean, I agree with them. There's a lot of great points here. Why are the tag team champions in this match instead of giving an opportunity to, another to two other female competitors? Like, why not have fucking like Lacey Evans in this match? Like Lacey Evans is doing nothing right now. Why not put more women in these matches and create more stars?
It should have
It just
been
doesn't.
Rhea Ripley should have been in that match for sure. Like, how is she not getting
I
pushed
don't
when you just
even.
put her into Edge's new stable? Like, come on.
Right, but I'm not even saying it needs to be Rhea. Just like I understand the criticism and I agree with it. Like, why isn't it somebody else? Why are the two tag team champions being forced to go against each other? Like, that would be
No.
like if in AEW the Young Bucks were both put into a match, like let's say a fatal four way with for a number one contendership for the TNT title. Like, I don't like.
Yeah,
It just
why?
doesn't make sense. Yeah, like what are we doing here? Like it's these two are the tag
Dude,
champions. Like there's no point to this.
this is one of the easiest bookings that I've ever seen to solve. And all you do is take Doudrop and uh Nikki Ash and you put them in a tag match against whoever and make it a number one contenders match. You could even put it against Sasha and Naomi and have them get disqualified by, maybe putting somebody through an announce table or using a chair, but don't pin the freaking champions like you always do. And then put Rhea Ripley and someone else and Liv Morgan in that match in the 6-way. You know what I mean? Like how it's the easiest fix ever, and for some reason they were very stubborn about changing this match. I don't get it.
Yeah, but then also there is the problem is that they didn't have anything fucking decided until the night of. Like they didn't have any they planned this match probably like in the afternoon. They didn't like there's no time, there's no preparation, you know. Tony Khan did an interview with Forbes over the weekend and like there was like a video clip making the rounds where Tony Khan saying, "I don't understand how you're tearing up scripts on Monday." And like I don't understand it either.
You
Like I
think
don't
you think that's why
like
Vince was stubborn and didn't want to change it? He's like, "No, we wrote it on Saturday. We're not changing this."
No, I don't think Vince wrote anything on Saturday. I don't believe that for one second. I think the writers wrote it on that Monday. And again, like the problem is that the product is so low thought, and like it's clearly because they're just like there's just no planning and there's no thought behind it. It's just content. It's just producing content
Yeah.
for the sake of producing content. Like there's no thought about how it makes sense or how it doesn't make sense. And I think that's just stupid. Um,
Yeah.
but
So,
also like there's sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, keep going.
You know, there's also concerns that this story is told put in terms of putting Doudrop and Nikki Ash in there too because they need to start their program according to this, and they're both just
Yeah.
put in this match as well, and it just doesn't make sense to do it this way.
You could have even given both of them a singles title match, one against Ronda, one against uh Bianca, and had them have good matches and made it look like they would be a good tag team. You know what I mean? Something stupid like that. I don't even know, but it's just I don't know. The booking is just getting worse and worse and worse over there. And
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as an E fan, man, it's got to be getting hard to continue defending them like this. Like, this has been a really odd situation, seeing these E stands trying to defend management on this one.
Yeah, it's really kind of gross and it's kind of disgusting, you know. And
Yeah,
so going back to the story, because I don't want to. I just kind of want to. We want to get through it because there's a
yeah,
lot of
for
it.
sure.
You know, talking about So their first instinct is not to like, well, fuck this, we're out. It's okay. Well, let's set up a meeting. Let's figure this out. Like, let's try to make the product better. And according to the story, there's 3 different meetings, and then the producers get upset and are telling them that they have an attitude problem.
Nah.
And like, oh, it rubs me so like such the wrong way because like reading this when I read this last night, it made me think of like in terms of like producers and the writers in that company, like it made me think of like that time they hired that comedy skit writer who had no wrestling experience and wasn't even a fan of the product, and like that those are the types of people that are like these writers. Like I understand like even in the producer role there's some wrestling vets, I get it, it's not all writers, but like I have very little faith or care for these writers and producers, and it doesn't help the situation. So it's just like
Yeah.
the fact that a producer said that, and like I do think that there's some truth to maybe the fact that maybe it was Bruce Pritchard. I mean, because there were things making the rounds before this tweet went out, like I said, about Pritchard saying shit. So I don't know.
So,
Uh,
you think there's a chance we ever see Sasha or Naomi in AEW?
I think it's way too well. Number one, I think if Sasha Banks is available on the market, I think that's a no-brainer for Tony Khan. Naomi, I'm not as 100% sure. I think Naomi is a great worker, but I don't think she's on the level of Sasha.
No.
Um, so what could I see both? Yeah, I could, but at the same time, I could also see. I mean, like people forget Naomi is related via marriage to Roman Reigns, so
Yes.
this is a very interesting situation in that aspect where Jimmy and Jey Uso are still working for the company.
Yep.
Um, but I mean, if Sasha's available, yes. But here's the problem, right? And here's the thing people don't realize is just because they walked out does not mean that they are no longer with the company.
No.
Uh,
Yeah.
WWE does not have to terminate their contracts. If anything, WWE could get real petty with this and could lock down their contracts as they've done in the past. You know what I mean? Like, oh, gets hurt, unable to perform, like Jeff Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
They just push that contract down the road for 2 years. You know, it's like same thing with this. It's like all it
Yeah.
takes is WWE to argue, well, you're not performing, so
And
we're gonna push this back.
I think they're going to be petty about this too because they didn't do this when Tony Storm wanted to leave, when Jeff Hardy left, when Pac left, when CM Punk left. None of these people did they put out a statement like this saying that they were unprofessional and ungrateful and had bad attitudes. You know, it's oof.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a very shitty situation from them. Um, and it's just like I fucking hate this company. Like I really do. And like here's the thing, right? Like, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I am not some I don't want to say the word bot because I think that's the whole thing is stupid. I'm not some guy on the internet who hates WWE for the sheer sake of hating WWE. I'm a guy who grew up loving that product
Yeah.
and being so happy for every Monday night and every whether it was Thursday or Friday or Tuesday, like they moved that SmackDown all over the place, but you get my point. For 2 nights of the week, I was so excited. I was like, let's fucking go. That's how I feel now about AEW. Like the thing with that with WWE is that over the years they have done so many things on so many levels, whether it be from an entertainment perspective of just extremely bad booking to personal shit of just really scummy business practices. Like I I hate WWE because I could sit down and talk to you for an hour and a half and tell you why I
Yeah.
hate WWE. This is not trolling. This is not that. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Because I
You're one of the perfect examples of a real wrestling fan who had some of their favorites just absolutely beaten down by this company and they just completely turned you away. You know, you're the perfect example of that.
Yeah, like it's funny to me because so like how like on Facebook you have like the memory thing where it's like it shows you like your posts from that
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
going back in the years. Like, dude, I open it up like at this time of year, like April, like March through May, and it's just me complaining about the last 12 years of WWE.
Yep.
Like it's just me being like I'm so miserable because this show sucked. Like, oh wow, another bad WrestleMania. Wow. It's like, oh wow, I can't believe CM Punk left. I like that. That's a huge loss. Just a bunch of shit. And it's like when is enough going to be enough? And that's another reason why when I really do think like enjoy what you enjoy. But like that's why I give you a hard time when you watch this product because
Yeah.
nothing's going to change if people tune into this product. Like I don't care if people tune in to shit on it. Like I understand. Like I love JD from NY's work. I think he does a lot of good work for people who don't want to watch that product. But
He's the
like
best.
yeah, but as long as like people like him and people like you are giving the eyeballs and the attention, like shit's not going to change. And that's why I sit here from a perspective of I'm not watching that show
I
no
get it.
matter what. And like it's important. It's important to know because WWE thinks that they can just do shit like this. That Sasha Banks is worthless to them, that Naomi is worthless to them, and that they have attitude problems, and that they're the ones who are in the wrong. Like, how many times have we seen over the years stories about these wrestlers, about these people who it's like, oh my god, they're a nightmare to work with. You know, Keith Lee, a nightmare to work with. CM Punk, a nightmare to work with. You know, like the list goes on and on and on. You know, Moxley, nightmare to work with. Like, come on, dude. Like, at what point, like, is it enough?
Yeah.
You know, and this is just another chapter for me. You know, and it just it pisses me off because I'm so sick of this shit.
Yeah, I agree.
You
All
know,
right.
and I
Well,
think it's just
oh,
something
go
to
ahead.
keep in mind. I just think it's something to keep in mind. Do you have any more notes on this? Because I do have like two more things.
No, go for it.
Okay, so I kind of also wanted to point out reactions across the wrestling world today and last night about it. So the AEW locker room, you know, the people that have spoken out have, you know, been very supportive. Swerve tweeted an encouragement to them today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dax Harwood said, you know, if you think it's the right thing, fucking do it. I believe it was.
He
Um,
said, "Always follow your beliefs."
right, exactly. And like what a fuck yeah moment. Like I love
Yeah.
FTR. I love Dax Harwood so much. Like what a dude. It's my guy.
Oh,
like,
I love that. That
um,
Uncle Dax is the best. Uh,
and you know he's the second best because I want to say how much I fucking love CM Punk
yeah.
and appreciate CM Punk because this guy's my favorite wrestler. Like it's there's no secret to that. It's the worst kept secret of all time. Is I am a CM Punk diehard, and I will follow him to the ends of the earth and be a fan of him, whatever he does, wherever he does it. Um, but the fact that this guy goes on Twitter and defends these women and is just all about them like that, like he was out there on. I don't know if you were on Twitter much today,
Oh
but he
yeah.
was out there on Twitter today choosing violence. CM
Yep.
Punk was on the warpath today. Matt Cardonas tweeted something kind of sarcastically about about like kind of how they handled the situation. And Punk responded with that because so Matt Cardona said, "If I can go back in time, the night I was pushed off the stage in a wheelchair on Raw, I should have walked into Johnny Ace's office, placed my neck brace on the table, and said I was leaving because I wasn't respected as the internet champion." Um, which was completely, the tone of it was kind of meant to be more of a sarcastic
That's what I
tone,
thought.
which Matt Cardona is kind of working a heel as King of the Indies, so I didn't really get too upset about it. I know some people did, but Punk did, and Punk responded to it saying, "If you'd go back in time to stand up for yourself, you should stand up for workers now." Um,
Yeah.
and he's going at it with Ryan Satan today or Satin, whatever his fucking name is, that Mark, and like CM Punk is the guy, And then you have on the other side, the thing that really frustrates me is no sympathy. Brian Alvarez was reporting that there was no sympathy from the WWE locker room about this, and I think that that's fucking wild to me. Um,
Yeah, I
I
heard
believe it's
they
sorry,
called
go
her
ahead.
a mark. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's completely crazy. Things that were said, the words that were used were Mark, fucking Mark, and diva. Um, and like, man, fuck those people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, who do you like? Do you want to take a guess at who said this shit? Because I have a theory, but I don't.
Well, I mean,
I
we
don't
could
know. Do you
start
want? Do you
right
want to
off
take a
and say
shot?
it wasn't Charlotte because she's fucking gone, getting married. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah,
then
I
we
don't think
can
Charlotte would
go.
say that.
It wasn't. Well, I doubt it was Ronda, but because Ronda wasn't there, I don't believe. Was she?
Yeah, I don't think Ronda's paying two cents. I don't think Ronda gives a
Um,
fuck about the product.
I could be wrong, but yeah, it's just I feel like it was obviously Becky Lynch. You know what I mean?
We're in complete agreement on this. I think that Becky and Seth Rollins have, you know, they've been that power couple with positioning in that company where like they're the homers and like they're gonna side with management no matter what. And I mean, it's kind of shitty. It's kind of disgusting.
Yep.